The fish of the Delaware River are responsible for an incredibly rich level of recreation, ecotourism, commercial activity, and biological diversity. And just alone, the economic value of of fishing in the Delaware Estuary watershed is $334 million annually. And yet, the Salem Nuclear Generating Station and the Delaware City Refinery are needlessly killing those fish by the billions every year. With a fix in technology, both Salem and the Delaware City Refinery could reduce their fish kills by as much as 95% or more. And in fact, the Clean Water Act requires these operations to minimize their adverse environmental impact, their adverse impact on the fish species. And yet, New Jersey's Department of Environmental Protection and Delaware's Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control have been allowing these two facilities to operate under long expired permits that allow the fish kills to continue. Without enforcement of the Clean Water Act by the states, its requirements for minimizing the adverse environmental impacts, adverse impacts to the fish are meaningless. And so it is left to the residents of this watershed to take on the burden of enforcing the Clean Water Act against both the regulators, in this case New Jersey DEP and Delaware's DNREC, and the regulated, the Salem Nuclear Generating Station and the Delaware City Refinery. And that's why we're here today. Today, the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, New Jersey Sierra Club, the New Jersey Environmental Federation, the Delaware Sierra Club, and Delaware Audubon Society have filed actions in the courts of Delaware and New Jersey to secure orders that would require New Jersey DEP and Delaware's DNREC to issue permits that require both Salem and the Delaware City Refinery to comply with the Clean Water Act and to minimize their fish kills. Our legal filings demand that the process begin and that the agencies stop sitting on their hands and turning a blind eye to the needless slaughter of fish in the Delaware River. The order would not tell the agencies what they need to require in the permits they issue. It would simply order them to issue draft permits that the public can then react to and, if necessary, could challenge in the courts. The agencies will have many excuses for their inaction over the years, but we don't believe that any of these excuses justify the dereliction of duty that has allowed the Delaware City Refinery to continue to kill fish under a permit that is 11 years expired and that allows Salem to continue to kill fish under a permit that is 7 years expired. When our food expires, we throw it out. That's what we expect for these permits. With that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Jeff Tittle, the Executive Director of New Jersey Sierra Club.
Thank you, Maya. And we're here today because for far too long, these dirty energy companies have been allowed to pollute the Delaware River and its estuary, robbing that river of its vitality and of life. The Salem plant itself killing more than 3 billion fish and fish larvae a year. And if you think about it, just since the last time a permit was given in 2001, it's more than 36 billion fish. They've gone on for far too long, and that we're here today to force the government to do the job that they were supposed to have done a long time ago, and that is to protect that river that belongs to all of us. When you think about the Salem plant and the impact that it has, it's not only the billions of fish that get killed, an impingement on the screens going into the plant, but it's then the environmental impacts of that superheated water that then hits the river. And in that water, there are all kinds of chemicals, from metals that have leached out of the facility or different other chemicals that are there to kill fungus and other things. So it impacts the river, both going into the plant and going out of the plant. And for far too long, the state of New Jersey has allowed that plant to continue to impact the river. We see this plant and its impacts to the river as something that cannot continue. We believe that 20 years ago, when a dirty deal was cut to allow them to do mitigation instead of building cooling towers or having a closed-loop system, that it was one of the days of shame in New Jersey. And today, we're going to court to do the job that the state should have been doing, which is to put in a system that's going to protect that river. And that's really why we're here, because you cannot mitigate for that destruction. Buying some uplands and planting some salt grass in one area does not make up for the impact of the river, and the Clean Water Act and the courts have said so. You know, it's sort of like me eating a banana split and somebody else running 5 miles and saying it's even. No, it's not. That river is ours. It needs to be protected, and the state hasn't done enough. And when you also think about sea level rise and storm surges and the fact that there are times of the year because of grass and other things in the river that the Salem plant has to come offline, having a closed loop system protects that plant from sea level rise and flooding as well. So it makes more sense. And then putting in a closed loop system and having cooling towers or whatever the technology is will actually create jobs to do it and make that plant actually safer and better long term. We're also here today because I want to talk briefly about the Mercer generating plant. We're not suing there yet, but hopefully one day we will, because again, for far too long, the state of New Jersey has allowed that plant as well to take life out of the river and then dump in superheated water with all kinds of chemicals coming from that coal plant, impacting both the river and the Hamilton Marsh. And again, these plants, when you look at them in totality, they're dirty. They're promoting unsafe nuclear power. They're promoting coal or promoting refining of tar sands, as in the case of Delaware cities, and they're attacking this river that we all love. This is a river that everyone loves to swim in and fish and kayak, canoe. It belongs to all of us. It's a national treasure, and yet these plants have been allowed to rob this river and steal away part of its life. And that's why we're here today, to go to court, to launch this campaign, to fight for this river that belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong to the polluters, it belongs to all of us. Thank you. I want to bring up Dave Pringle from New Jersey Environmental Federation.
Thanks, Jeff. Again, my name is Dave Pringle. I'm the campaign director for Clean Water Action in the New Jersey Environmental Federation. We're appealing to the courts today because these 3 oil, nuclear, and coal plants are violating our nation's clean water laws, and the states of New Jersey and Delaware are letting them get away with it. So we need the courts to do the job the executive is failing to do. The health of the Delaware River and Bay are at stake. Its fishing industry, basic law and order, because they're violating the law and the states aren't holding them accountable. 4 years ago, this week, specific on October 5th, 2009, then gubernatorial candidate Chris Christie said he would stop the fish slaughter at Salem in his first 100 days in office. But Governor Christie has been MIA ever since, and the court needs to make him show up for work. And I'd like to just confirm that that statement is still online. If you go to a certain reporter's website that's here today, Politicker NJ, on page 710 of their press release section, you can still find that statement from the governor's campaign in 2009, and I'd like to read it word for word. Christie's key, and this is a direct quote, Christie's key, according to Governor Christie's own campaign. Christie's key environmental planks stand in stark contrast to John Corzine's failed record and broken promises of the last 4 years, enacting policies in the first 100 days to stop the fish slaughter resulting from flawed cooling systems at the Salem and Oyster Creek nuclear plants. In his first 100 days, he was going to do that. He hasn't done anything to implement that promise. It's time he shows up for work.
Good afternoon, everybody. As she said, I'm Mark Martell. I brought with me Dave Carter, our conservation chair, retired scientist from DENREC. And we're here in solidarity with our friends in New Jersey because obviously we share the river. We also share the same industry that owns 2 refineries, the PBF Paulsboro as well as PBF in Delaware City. To understand the history of Delaware City, you need to look back a few years when Valero was a prior owner and they were dealing with an expired permit, as Maya has mentioned, back from 2002. Our governor and our Department of Secretary Chairman Colin O'Mara, when they negotiated the refinery being purchased away from Valero, they gave them an extension of another 10 years on upgrading the cooling tower. Now this is unique in that if you look at the Delaware City refinery, before they were mothballed by Valero in 2009, they were on schedule to produce a $120 million cooling tower investment that when the new owner was taking over, they said in their shareholder registration statement to their shareholders that they were given a break on not having to install this new facility. Now, to put that in context in terms of the economics of the situation, and I think these are the questions that a reporter should ask, why isn't the refinery making this upgrade? If you look at it, PBF Energy, when they acquired Valero, they spent $220 for the base facility, another $440 million in planned upgrades, but the oldest part of the facility that they didn't upgrade while it was mothballed was the cooling tower and the water intake structure. And all we have asked as environmentalists is, if you're going to make that kind of a planned investment, why can't you fully invest in modernizing the plant up into current regulatory status, which is a closed cycle cooling system? That's all we're asking for. And the $120 million investment, if anyone takes a look at the tar sands oil that's going through there and the profit margins associated with it, look at the balance sheet of this company. They've got $500+ million in surplus working capital, as well as an additional $1 billion of liability and equity that they could tap into to make this kind of a plant investment to upgrade this facility. Unfortunately, our governor has been giving them a pass on this, and it is our hope that this legal action today pushes our administration into really engaging the public on getting this effort out and putting, we think, union jobs to work here. We think that there's a great union benefit. Building a facility like this, $120 million, a portion of that would be union labor, and as well as the operating jobs for managing that change. So we're standing here with Maya, and we're supporting this legal effort. And as I mentioned, our hope is simply just to push the refinery into the direction that all other refineries are going to have to head towards, we believe, with 316 of the Clean Water Act. Take it up.
Thank you very much. I think it's incredibly important to note that organizations on both sides of the Delaware River that advocate for a healthy river environment are uniting together and taking action because the governors of Delaware and New Jersey and the corresponding environmental regulators have not acted. The Delaware River is an incredibly important resource for present and future generations, and the cooling water intake structures have caused detriment to our aquatic resources in a way that the impact could be mitigated if sensible, reasonable, existing technologies were only deployed. So as a final thought on this, I think it's incredibly important to note that putting infrastructure into both of these facilities in a way that can reduce their impact on fisheries, on commercial and recreational fisheries that are already heavily regulated in the region and in both states is a very good first step to ensuring the future integrity of our aquatic environment. Thank you.